When I was 12 years old, my best friend Jake and I were always looking for ways to make a little extra money. I had my eyes set on a shiny new cell phone, while Jake was saving up for the latest game console. One hot summer afternoon in June, we hatched a plan that seemed foolproof. We'd reclaim lost golf balls at the local golf course, Green Pines, and sell them back to golfers. Green Pines was a sprawling course with rolling hills and lush, green fairways. Most of the holes were surrounded by dense woods, perfect for losing golf balls. We figured we could make a small fortune just by collecting them and reselling them. There was only one problem: the 12th tee. Rumor had it, the 12th tee was haunted by a ghostly terrier named Charlie. The story went that Charlie's owner had been an old groundskeeper who had died on the course many years ago. Since then, Charlie's ghost was said to guard the 12th tee, barking and chasing away anyone who dared to approach. Jake and I weren't the superstitious type, but the stories were enough to make us a bit uneasy. We decided to start our golf ball hunting expedition in the early afternoon, long before the sun would set and the shadows would start playing tricks on our minds. Armed with nothing but a couple of plastic bags and our determination, we headed off to Green Pines. The first few holes were a gold mine. We found dozens of balls hidden in the tall grass and under bushes. Each new discovery made us giddy with excitement, as if we were uncovering buried treasure. We quickly filled our bags and calculated that we'd already made enough for at least one of Jake's video games. Then, we reached the 11th hole, and the dread of what lay beyond began to creep in. We stood at the edge of the 11th green, looking down the fairway toward the 12th tee. The trees seemed to close in around it, casting an eerie shadow despite the bright afternoon sun. I glanced at Jake, and he gave me a half-hearted shrug. We had come this far. There was no turning back now. As we approached the 12th tee, the air seemed to grow colder. The usual sounds of the golf course, the distant thwack of drivers hitting balls, the murmur of golfers' conversations, faded away. All we could hear was the crunch of our sneakers on the gravel path. Then, we heard it. A faint bark. We froze, our eyes wide. The bark came again, louder this time, and it was unmistakably close. "Maybe it's just a dog from one of the houses nearby," Jake suggested, though his voice trembled. "Yeah, maybe," I replied, though I wasn't convinced. We took a few more cautious steps forward. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. A small, shadowy figure darted between the trees, accompanied by another bark. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could see that Jake was just as scared. "We should go," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Jake nodded, and we turned to leave. But before we could take more than a few steps, the wind began to howl through the trees, carrying with it eerie whispers. The leaves rustled violently, and the sound was almost like hushed voices, talking just out of our comprehension. The barking intensified, blending with the wind and the whispers, creating a symphony of terror. Panic set in, and we ran. We didn't stop until we were back at the clubhouse, our bags of golf balls swinging wildly at our sides. Breathless and shaking, we looked at each other and burst out laughing. It was a nervous, relieved kind of laughter. We had no idea if what we had experienced was real or just our imaginations running wild. But we didn't care. We had our golf balls, and we had survived to the haunted 12th tee. The next day, armed with newfound courage and driven by the lure of easy money, Jake and I decided to return to Green Pines. We hoped that our scare on the 12th tee had just been a fluke. This time, we brought along our friend Tom, who was curious about our adventure and eager to join the fun. Tom was known for his bravery and level-headedness, which made us feel a little more confident. As we made our way back to the course, we shared our story with Tom, who listened intently but didn't seem fazed. He even joked about Charlie, saying that maybe he was just a friendly ghost dog looking for some company. His lightheartedness was infectious, and soon we found ourselves laughing and joking again. We spent the morning combing through the first few holes, finding even more golf balls than before. Tom's presence seemed to bring us luck, and our bags were soon overflowing. We had nearly forgotten about the 12th tee when we reached the 11th hole once again. This time, with Tom leading the way, we approached the 12th tee more cautiously, but determinedly. The air grew colder once more, and the familiar unease settled in. As we stepped onto the 12th tee, the wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the whispers returned. It was as if the very air around us was alive with secrets. The barking started again, but this time, We were prepared. Tom called out, "Charlie, if you're here, we don't mean any harm. We just want to collect some golf balls." To our astonishment, the barking stopped. We stood there in stunned silence, waiting for something to happen. A few moments passed, and then, out of the shadows, a small terrier appeared. It was a scruffy little dog with a friendly demeanor, wagging its tail as it approached us. We looked at each other in disbelief. Tom knelt down and extended his hand. The dog sniffed it and then licked his fingers. "See, he's not so scary," he said with a smile. We petted the dog, who seemed to enjoy the attention. The sense of fear melted away, replaced by curiosity and relief. We spent the rest of the afternoon collecting golf balls around the 12th tee, with our new canine friend by our side. As we walked back to the clubhouse, we couldn't help but wonder if the ghostly terrier story had just been a legend after all, or maybe Charlie's spirit had decided we were okay. That night, as I lay in bed with my new cell phone, I couldn't help but smile. Our adventure at Green Pines had turned out to be more than just a money-making scheme. It had given us a story to tell for years to come. And I knew that, come next summer, Jake, Tom, and I would be back at Green Pines, ready for whatever new challenges and friends, ghostly or not, might come our way. Hi, my name is Steve, and my family and I recently moved to a new house in New Jersey after my company relocated us here. The transition has been smooth so far, and we're really enjoying our new surroundings. Over the weekend, I decided to join the local golf course to unwind and explore my new community. The first morning on the course was incredible. As I teed off at the first hole, I was greeted by a stunning sunrise, with light cutting through the morning mist and casting a golden hue over the fairway. The tranquility of the course was a welcome contrast to the hustle and bustle of unpacking and settling in. During my round, I met a few locals who were more than happy to share tips about the course and the area. One of them, a retired gentleman named Bill, became an unexpected friend and guide. He had been a member of the club for years and knew every nook and cranny of the course. His stories about the history of the club and the community were fascinating. Bill also shared an intriguing local legend about the course. In 1831, a farmer named Jacob disappeared near what is now the 9th tee, and some say his spirit still roams that part of the course. On the back nine, I encountered a family of deer grazing near the edge of the rough. They were completely unfazed by my presence, adding to the serene and almost magical atmosphere. As I approached the 9th tee, I couldn't help but feel a slight chill in the air, even though the sun was shining brightly. The legend of Jacob the farmer lingered in my mind, adding a mysterious charm to the game. After finishing my round, I headed to the clubhouse for a drink and met the course manager, who welcomed me warmly. We chatted about the upcoming events and tournaments, and I felt a growing sense of belonging. He also mentioned the legend of Jacob, saying that some golfers have reported strange occurrences near the 9th tee, like sudden drops in temperature and unexplained noises. Encouraged by my pleasant first experience, I returned to the golf course for a second round the following evening. I wanted to experience the course at dusk, hoping to see the beauty of the setting sun over the greens. The atmosphere was different this time, calmer, with the shadows growing longer and the colors of the sky deepening into rich oranges and purples. As I made my way through the front nine, the course seemed even more serene in the evening light. Birds were singing their last songs of the day, and the air was cool and refreshing. When I reached the back nine, the sense of tranquility was profound, almost ethereal. As I approached the 9th tee, the atmosphere changed. A mist began to rise from the ground, swirling gently around my feet. The air grew noticeably colder, and I remembered Bill's stories about the spirit of Jacob the farmer. The surroundings took on an eerie stillness, and the usual sounds of the evening seemed to fade away. I felt a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, as if I were being watched. Determined to continue, I set up my shot and tried to ignore the growing sense of unease. As I prepared to swing, I heard a faint rustling in the trees nearby, followed by a soft, almost whispering sound. I paused, heart pounding, and glanced around, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Steeling myself, I took the shot and watched the ball soar down the fairway. Walking towards my ball, I felt the cold air intensify, wrapping around me like a cloak. The mist thickened, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a shadowy figure near the edge of the green. It was just a fleeting glimpse, but it was enough to send a shiver down my spine. I blinked, and the figure was gone, leaving me to wonder if my eyes had played tricks on me. Finishing the hole with a mix of excitement and apprehension, I continued my round, eager to see if any more strange occurrences would happen. The rest of the game passed uneventfully, but the memory of that moment stayed with me, adding a new layer of mystery and intrigue to the course. After the round, I headed back to the clubhouse, where I found Bill and shared my experience with him. He listened with a knowing smile and nodded. "Jacob likes to make his presence known to the newcomers," he said. "Consider yourself initiated. Joining the local golf course has been one of the best decisions since moving here. It's not just about the game, it's about the community, the peaceful moments, and the new friendships. The added layer of local lore makes each round more intriguing. I'm looking forward to many more rounds and experiences in this beautiful and slightly mysterious place." I received the email confirming my new job as a groundskeeper at the local golf course, just as my family and I settled into our modest house overlooking the sprawling greens in the heart of New York State. It was a welcome piece of news amidst the flurry of moving boxes and the excitement of exploring our new neighborhood. The next morning, with a view of the golf course from my bedroom window, I eagerly gathered my gear and made my way down the quiet street towards the maintenance shed. The early sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a gentle glow over the manicured fairways below. Despite the peaceful scene, a sense of curiosity tinged with apprehension lingered in the back of my mind. Entering the shed, I was greeted by the familiar scent of freshly cut grass and the hum of equipment being readied for the day's tasks. Rick, the seasoned head groundskeeper, greeted me with a firm handshake and a warm smile. "Morning, glad you're here. We've got a big day ahead," Rick said, his voice filled with a sense of purpose. "Thanks, Rick. I'm ready to get started," I replied, trying to match his enthusiasm while suppressing the nerves that fluttered in my stomach. Rick quickly briefed me on our objectives. The golf course, nestled in one of the most picturesque regions of New York State, was preparing to host a prestigious state tournament. Our goal was to ensure that every detail of the course was meticulously attended to. From fairways to bunkers, each aspect had to be perfect. As we set out across the expansive course, the morning mist clung to the ground, adding a mystical quality to the landscape. The soft rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds created an atmosphere that was both serene and strangely eerie. The surrounding woods seemed to whisper secrets as we worked, their ancient trees casting long shadows that danced in the shifting light. We trimmed roughs, aerated greens, and meticulously groomed each tee box. It was demanding work, and the day progressed with a quiet intensity that seemed to amplify the natural beauty of the surroundings. Yet, amidst the tranquility, there was an undeniable sense that the course held stories and secrets of its own, waiting to be discovered. By midday, the course began to take shape beautifully. The fairways were like ribbons of velvet, and the greens were a lush carpet of emerald. Despite our focused efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a sensation that prickled at the back of my neck whenever I glanced into the dense thicket surrounding the fairways. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the landscape, Rick's usual cheerfulness waned, replaced by a quiet solemnity. A chill wind swept through the trees, carrying with it a whisper of something ancient and unknown. As we wrapped up our tasks for the day, the air grew heavy with unspoken thoughts. Rick's gaze lingered on the course, his brow furrowed in thought. I too felt a knot of unease tighten in my chest as I packed up my tools and prepared to head home. Walking back along the quiet street towards our new house, the evening shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally long. The cozy familiarity of our home offered a comforting contrast to the enigmatic aura of the golf course. Yet, as I glanced back at the sprawling greens under the fading light, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this place than met the eye. A sense that the course held mysteries waiting to be uncovered, just beyond the neatly trimmed fairways and quaint suburban houses. That night, as I lay in bed, the events of the day replayed in my mind. The distant calls of owls outside my window seemed to echo the secrets whispered by the woods earlier. Sleep eluded me as I pondered the history of the golf course and the estate it belonged to. It was as if the very land beneath our new home held secrets buried deep in its roots. The next morning dawned bright and clear, yet my unease lingered. Rick greeted me with his usual warmth, but there was an unspoken tension between us. As we resumed our work on the course, I found myself drawn to areas that seemed untouched by human hands for years. Old stone markers half buried in the earth hinted at a forgotten past, and the gnarled trees along the edges of the fairways whispered tales of generations long gone. As the day wore on, strange occurrences added to my growing sense of unease. Tools misplaced, shadows that moved independently, and a pervasive feeling of being watched haunted my every step. Rick, too, seemed preoccupied, his usually steady hands shaking slightly as he worked. During a break, I ventured into the oldest part of the estate, where ancient oaks stood sentinel over crumbling stone ruins. The air was thick with a palpable sense of history, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was trying to communicate with me. It was as if the land itself was urging me to uncover its secrets, to understand the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface. By evening, exhaustion and curiosity battled within me. The golf course, once a symbol of prestige and beauty, now held a deeper allure, an allure that promised answers to questions I hadn't even known to ask. As I packed up for the day and headed home, I vowed to unravel the mysteries of this enigmatic place, even if it meant delving into the darkest corners of its history. As I closed the door to our house that night, the shadows seemed to press closer than ever before. Yet, instead of fear, I felt a strange exhilaration, an excitement for the journey that lay ahead, into the depths of the golf course's past and the secrets it held for those willing to uncover them.